Hello, hello. This is Captain Snuggles with a new game today, reporting from a new region of space. I'm going to be going over my first impressions of Space Haven. This is a game that was suggested by you all, my audience. I don't get a whole lot of comments, and several of them have asked about this game, so I figured I would give it a shot. It does seem right up my alley, sort of a RimWorld in space kind of vibe. And so I bought it, and I played through the tutorial to get a feel for the game and learn what the buttons do. Then I started a new playthrough, which is what you're watching in the background right now. I played with this new ship until I cleared out the starting system. So we're going to keep this playing in the background as I talk about my first impressions, and you can see how I did. I do intend to keep playing with this ship and keep making videos, but first let's start off with the basics, my first impressions of the game. So right up front here, I will give you my main takeaway, which is that this seems like a pretty good game for people who like colony sims, and a pretty good game for people who like spaceships, and a great game for people who like astronaut poop. Now, I'll explain what I mean very shortly, but first, a very quick announcement. So every year, my friends and I participate in Extra Life, which is a national gaming event to benefit Children's Miracle Network. Children's Miracle Network is a charity that raises money for children's hospitals in the US and Canada, helping sick kids get the care they need. We'll be doing our annual fundraiser this weekend, November 3rd and 4th. It's going to start with a 12-hour gaming marathon on Saturday, including a couple of streams on Twitch. We'll then have some chill activities on Sunday, including at least one more stream on Twitch. And then I and hopefully my friends will release some charity-themed videos over the next few months. So you can check the description for details. We would really appreciate any donations, likes, and comments y'all can give us. Now, back to Space Haven. So, again, I really think this game's main target audience is astronaut poop enthusiasts, by which I mean people who really care about the nitty-gritty realism of their spaceships. People who aren't satisfied unless they can trace the path of water and nutrients from ingestion to excretion to re-ingestion. This game absolutely gives you that. The first thing it tells you to do is build a toilet, and so that really sets the tone. And more broadly, the game is all about detailed management of at least a dozen resources and at least a dozen environmental variables, all of which are interrelated, which to me that sounds like an absolute dream come true for an astronaut poop enthusiast. Now, I am not an astronaut poop enthusiast. I really have zero interest in managing the bowel movements of my video game characters. You know, when I play RimWorld, I don't question where the nutrients in my hydroponics basins came from, or how my colonists can stay healthy on a diet of rice and only rice, or even, where my guns get their ammo. I honestly prefer for my colony sims to streamline some aspects of resource management for the sake of faster and smoother gameplay. Now, despite that, I have still enjoyed Space Haven in the little bit that I've played it. The game is extremely slow-paced, but I wouldn't quite call it tedious. There have been moments I've disliked, and there have been moments where I've been a little bit bored, but overall, usually I have had something interesting to do. And so that's the broad takeaway from my perspective. And so for the rest of the video, I'm just going to sit back and watch this replay with you all, and comment on what I've been up to, and things I've enjoyed, things I didn't enjoy. And so, in my first little tutorial playthrough, I was deliberately not playing that well just to get a feel for the game. I built a floating scrap heap of a ship, not very efficiently laid out, ran into all kinds of problems, ran into all kinds of resource issues, but it helped me get a feel for it and figure out what I wanted to do for this run. So in this one, I decided I wanted to build a sort of a flying wing type thing, like, you know, a stealth bomber or that terrible spaceship from the new Star Wars. Um, just a big, wide, roughly triangle-shaped ship that was decent in combat and, you know, could do a little bit of everything. But I really wanted to shoot some pirates in this run because I did not get to do that in the tutorial. So, that's what I'm trying to build here. Now, you can see the basic shape of that starting to take form. I have all my basic facilities down at this point, and I have finally learned how to make planting beds, which I don't know why we don't start with that research, but we don't. Apparently our people can build a spaceship in space, but cannot grow plants. So here we have a little bit of combat going on. It's nothing special. Some rogue bots are harassing me. I'm shooting back with my turrets as best I can. This game is sort of a weird mix of the crew being independent and having to be micromanaged. So you can see right now I am having to micromanage every step my crew takes to clear out this spaceship. But in fighting off those rogue bots, you know, they didn't have to have any input from me to do that. They just hopped on the guns and shot them down with no input required. So that's a little bit odd. The mix of micromanagement and crew as sort of independent AI feels a little bit off to me. It's generally manageable, but it's just an odd mix. Another odd mix is the UI. Now, this is obviously really, really sped up, and so you might not be able to see too much of this, but frequently I fumble my buttons in this run and cannot find exactly which button does exactly what I want. You know, the UI has a ton going on that you can see in the top left. You know, I think I said over a dozen resources earlier. That's obviously a vast understatement. Looks like there are, what, 24, maybe 30 resources on there? And of course all the systems to manage that and manage your crew. But you can see in the top left there aren't that many words on there. It's not like RimWorld where the buttons are pretty clearly laid out. You know, orders, build, architect, your health tab, your needs tab, all that. A lot of that is done in symbols in this game. And now, those of you who haven't played this game, I would challenge you to know what all of the symbols in the top left of the screen stand for, because I do not find it intuitive at all. And so that's one of the bits that has frustrated me a fair amount in this first serious run, is just memorizing what all the weird symbols do in the UI. You'll see a little bit later. I cannot for the life of me find the battle stations button in my first space combat, and just got absolutely rolled because of that. You know, there's no big prominent red alert button. There's a tiny little checkbox, not even labeled, in the corner of a sub-menu somewhere. So that's certainly that's a complaint, for sure. But it isn't game-breaking by any means. This, I should have mentioned up front, this game is still in early access. It calls itself, I think it calls it Alpha 17 is the current patch. So it feels more polished than Alpha, but it does claim to still be in Alpha. And so, you know, a little bit of a janky UI is pretty much to be expected for a game that's still in Alpha. Now then, at this point, I've continued to get more resources, and here you see me goof up pretty badly, which we'll find out later. So I need CO2 for my plants, and I just make the assumption that my oxygen generator is more of like a CO2 scrubber, that if I turn it off, you know, not only will the oxygen go down, but the CO2 will go up correspondingly. It turns out that is not the case, and I will I will discover that in due time. But that was a little bit of a struggle, getting the gas balance on the ship right. The salvaging mechanic is pretty dang cool, I have to say. Being able to fly around, send a boarding party over to abandoned spaceships. They're laid out almost like little dungeons, and you send your guys around, clear the so-called dungeon out of all the enemies, and then you can loot it. It's a pretty classic formula, but I do really like how the game has done that. Now I do wish I got a little bit more stuff per ship, but well, that's on me for being stubborn and putting the game on medium difficulty instead of builder difficulty for this first run. You know, it was pretty clear in that first menu that the game was not going to give me that many resources if I did not pick builder difficulty. I went with it anyway. So here you see me toggling my oxygen overlay on and off. Obviously the deeper red and purple colors are bad. And I do manage to stabilize it. My crew is wandering around in their spacesuits for a few minutes there. Got it back under control, but, you know, I wasted some resources in the process. And that is one thing that I don't know if I really like or dislike, and let's hold that thought, because this is where I start learning about space combat. Because you remember back when the rogue bots attacked, my people got on operations automatically. They manned the point defense turrets. They shot down the rogue bots on their own. This time, they did not respond at all. They let the pirate shuttle fly right up to the airlock and just unload 4 dudes with guns. And now here, despite that, after a bloody fight, I think I have won. But what I did not realize is that the pirates had a whole nother boarding party ready to go back on their ship. And, you know, I have no way of shooting down the shuttle, really. So, you see me save scumming like a maniac here, just trying to figure out how combat works and how one might win this encounter. I believe, finally start to figure it out. Clearing out this ship again, and I assume we're going to see the fight with the pirates again here very shortly. But essentially what ends up happening with the pirates is, that I think about how my own crew reacts when the ship is damaged, when holes get punched in it, etc. And so I fend off the first boarding party, and then aim my turrets at the bad guys. Oh yeah, here we go. So I didn't even have offensive weaponry on my ship during the first engagement, and so I sort of kite them around here, and then go back to engage them once I actually have some weaponry going. I'm messing with my cover objects as well, which end up being pretty good. Except once again I get rolled, and so reload once again. But I had the idea in that last go-round. Need to build some defensive cover, and need some offensive weaponry so I can punch back a little bit and not just get boarded over and over again. And so you can see this is really a process of trial and error. Absolutely. Which I don't love. I feel like with this dangerous of a combat mechanic, the game could have maybe told me a little bit more about what to do, or had the crew respond a little bit more intuitively with their AI, instead of just letting the pirates roll in and kill them. But, you know, that there is basically a quick save mechanic. You know, you can save and load at any time, and I'm taking full advantage of that. Still in my training arc here. I hope you all forgive me for the saves coming, but I'm just trying to learn. So here we are. I have my weaponry console up. I have my 2 autocannons up, and I'm feeling good about this run. So here they come. Let's see if I can pull it off this time. Here they are. All right, I'm struggling in vain to shoot down their shuttle as it comes in, realizing that just ain't gonna happen. So instead, I keep trying to do the same thing, because I am a sane human being. You can tell I'm sharing this this first-time viewer experience with you, because I did not rewatch this ahead of time, and I totally forgot how many times I saved and reloaded. But finally, I think I have the idea. I'm bombarding the hell out of the shuttle bay. I have my cover set up, and I flank the boarding party and beat them up as they come in, and execute them as they surrender, and now I just absolutely beam their shuttle bay, you know, damaging their stuff until they cannot launch more boarding parties, and then they surrender and send me a bunch of stuff, and we're good. Got it on the first try, no big deal. Yeah, so that was absolutely a little bit of a struggle. Now, I have played a little bit more since recording this video, and combat has gone a lot more smoothly, but that first time of trial and error was really rough. And that's been a recurring theme with a lot of this game, is sort of not being told exactly what to expect, not being told exactly how to do things, and just sort of having to use trial and error over and over again until figuring it out. You know, sometimes doing the save and reload thing, sometimes just eating the hits to my resources, wasting some resources, and moving on. Now, I do run into a ton of resource shortages here, and I also, as you can see, I'm really struggling with the amount of space I have on my ship. So I'm absolutely struggling to find a home for this hyperdrive so that I can get my airlock in a better spot. And the whole goal of what I'm doing here is to put the airlock somewhere where I can have multiple barricades covering it. Next time I fight pirates, I can have all my people in cover. I'm trying to do that, but you can see, you know, I think this is on like 10x speed, and it's taking me several minutes. So I spent a solid half hour just trying to figure out how to move my dang airlock. But I did get it figured out, you know, continuing the theme of trial and error. I think a lot of these things that are holding me up are issues that you're only going to face once, and then you figure it out and will not have to struggle through it again. At least, that's the hope. And so, getting close to wrapping up this video. And so my overall thoughts are that for the very brief 6 hours I've spent with it, I think Space Haven has some issues, but it is way more than the sum of its parts, for sure. It's very crunchy, very complicated, lots of resources, lots of mechanics, lots of things to do. And I can point out flaws and have had issues with almost every aspect of it. You know, there's no individual part of it that I've found really genuinely excellent. But if you look at the whole and not just the pieces, Space Haven seems pretty fun. It absolutely has my attention, and you know, I'm looking forward to continuing this playthrough and seeing more of the game. And well, I hope you all will join me for that continuing adventure. But for now, I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll tune in for the next installment. And as always, thank you for watching. And until next time, this is Captain Snuggles, signing off.